All right, you guys all ready? Bobby on the ones and twos. He's good to go. All right, welcome everyone to Two Scoops. Appreciate y'all coming out. The whole reason I put this together is just to get the photo community together and celebrating visual storytelling. It's all about storytelling. That's what brought us all together. So I know we all work individually, but I figured it'd be a good excuse just to bring us all together. In these Two Scoops, it's not really about talking about gear or how to light a portrait or whatever. It's more just about the stories themselves. So that's going to be a big focus on what we see tonight and moving forward in these other Two Scoops. Can everyone all hear me out back there? This is funny. This is a very selfish event that I put on because I just like watching. I like going to photography talks because it really lights a fire under me and kind of brings home on what on the crazy stuff that we do. So every couple months I need to go to a photography talk to kind of bring home what I love doing. So that's kind of the impetus of this all. So yeah, I appreciate you guys all coming out too. I think you guys will get something out of it. Couple housekeeping, or just want to give a big thanks to Romer House for having us. This is such a cool event. It's an awesome screen. A big help from Ramona, my partner in crime, my goofy footer, Leno. We share that. Do you want to say anything, Ramona, about any of this craziness that we're trying to put on these events on?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Ramona from the Romer House. For those of you that this is your first time at Romer House, this is Oahu's only adults-only hotel. And the concept around Romer, we started in New York, which is our first property. We have our older loud sister up the street, the Ambassador, and then we have Romer House. And Romer House was built for the neighborhood. And specifically, this property is built for the creatives. When we were conceptualizing the design, when we were conceptualizing what was going to happen in the space, we saw that there was just a need in the market for creatives to gather, and that's what we want to do here. That's very intentional. We have an art gallery downstairs. Our friend Arto Sari has some photographs up. If you have photographs, we do change that gallery. Whenever I find new art that I like, that I want to look at for an extended period of time, we change it. And I think Matt and I met, and we share a common obsession with looking at beautiful things, and we started chit-chatting. I'm always talking, so even though I'm really nervous. And we started talking about what he does and how the hotel world can inspire that, and that's what Romer House is. So I encourage you to come and talk to me about what your art is. I really want to make this place a place for artists to feel like they can be inspired, or come and stay for the weekend and make something here, or write your next book in that room up there. Just kind of giving this beautiful, sexy allure to making art in Waikiki. So thanks for coming. I'm glad you're all here.
Thank you. And I want to thank you all. We raised, almost $1,000, I imagine, just from you guys all, that we're going to go to this scholarship. Larry, do you want to say a little something about what AAF is and a little bit about the scholarship? He helped put it together last year and pick the winners. So just a quick little something about what you do and all that, because I appreciate you, Larry. You're badass.
Thank you. Hey, can we give it up for Matt? Introverted guy with a big heart bringing us together. My name is Larry. I'm the co-president of AAF. Super thanks to Matt, the education committee, who put this together so that we could fund scholarships for our Shining Star Scholarship. AAF stands for the American Advertising Federation. Sounds like a big word, right? But essentially, we're just a club and an organization across the U.S., and we have chapters, and we're the Hawaii chapter. And what's really great about this is we are comprised of storytellers, creatives, copywriters, web developers, photographers, filmers, all that good stuff. All of our clients who come to us and look for storytelling so that they can advance their business or their organization. The whole idea about AAF is that we're trying to move forward our industry in our respective places. And so I'm so stoked to be here tonight. I'm excited to be in the first and only adult hotel. Can we get a discount? Come on, Ina. Hello. Oh,
You can book a room at Romer House and use code MAYOR. That's my friends and family code. It'll give you 25% off.
yes. Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome, guys. Let's write the next one. Thanks, Ramona. So we're excited to have you. Shining Star, I wasn't the only guy giving away the scholarships for the past 2 or 3. I was on a panel that would interview these college students, and it's really amazing because through AAF, we're trying to advance our industry through professional education, through showcasing excellent talent with things like the Pele. If you guys are up for Pele's, you only got 1 more week, by the way. So we do the Pele Awards, and we give scholarships to deserving students. And it's really great to be a part of something that perpetuates the thing that we do here in Hawaii. I'm a sucker and I'm a bias for our food here in Hawaii. I feel the same about our creative services industry. I think that we have the best storytelling, we have the best community, and I just want to thank you guys for coming out here, because showing up for something like this, yeah, I want to be inspired. I'm stoked for what we're going to hear, but also just showing up for each other is one of the things that makes Hawaii special. And so I'm so happy to represent AAF Hawaii. Thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited for the recipients of the Shining Star Scholarship. Last year we had Ashley Macho and Lena Lariosa, I believe so. Sweet, sweet girls, such amazing talent. I think it's from University of Hawaii, West Oahu, and KCC, if I'm not mistaken. But it's great to sit on that panel because you get to see the next generation and how they view our work and how they try to bring it forward. And so I want to do a plug. If you want to be a part of AAF and you want to start helping us, or if you want to help us to continue to make our work meaningful and special, not only for what we do now, but for the future generations. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, Matt, for all of this. 2 scoops. It's going to be great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Larry. You see why I brought him up there. He's very well said. Well, better than anything I could do. All right, well, I have a special treat tonight, guys. I got my good friend, Dana Edmunds, legendary photographer. Had the honor to work with him for probably the last 10 years at Hanaho. He's been working here since the 70s, covering a little bit of everything in life, the portraits, surfing, but I won't do a big introduction because I just want to jump right into it, and I think his work will speak for itself. Now, I did have a raffle. Do you guys have your raffle tickets out? I'm going to just do a bunch throughout the night. Maybe we can do one. Dana, do you want to pick one real quick? And we'll get to the photography soon. Okay, for the next, Tim, can you click and these are some of our I got a cool book by one of my favorite photographers, Matt Stewart. So this one's yours, whoever, what's the?
Are you ready?
Yep.
046193.
193. Anyone going once? Junior, is that you? Oh, hell yeah. One of my favorite books. This is epic. I just hold on to it. Y'all good?
Thanks, man.
Okay, I got my homie Tim. He's going to be clicking along with us here. Where do I start? I got so much to... Anyways, Dana, thanks so much for coming out. Let me get you laid, my friend.
No kiss? I don't get a kiss?
No kiss, not till later. Well, I can't thank you enough, Dana, for coming out. This is a huge thing having you here. So I'm excited to dive into your work, and we'll just take it from there. I got some questions for you, but I think you and me can just talk some story and see where it goes.
Okay, take our way then. First question is for me.
Yeah.
Two scoops.
Yep.
How did that get going?
That's a great question. So I like Jody Roma. she started Two Scoops a couple years back, and it was just a Zoom call hosted by Billy V. So I got big shoes to fill here, and they would just interview people in the industry, and it went up on YouTube, and she called it Two Scoops. I was doing a thing about 4 or 5 years ago called Photo Nights, where I'd just bring the community together and bring in a photographer to talk story. And then I took over Jody's position at AAF Hawaii on the education team, and I wanted to continue putting on these events. And inspired by her and what she was doing, I just kept the vibe going and kept the name Two Scoops.
Okay, that sounds good.
So Dana, what are we seeing here? Tell me a little about how you got.
I don't know if you guys can see that. Do we need to dim the light a little bit? You guys all right? Anyway, so this would be me 1974, and that's my little house in Kuau, Maui. So I grew up in Southern California. I went to Maui in 1973, went to go surfing for a couple of weeks, and I stayed for about 7 years. And so this was a plantation house in up the Cane Road, surrounded by cane and mango trees. And this was actually the Japanese Furo. So I knew these two gals that had the plantation house, and they were paying $75 a month rent. So I asked if I could fix this little place up and call that my house, and I did. So we each paid $25. So
How did you end up coming to Hawaii first?
I came to go surfing for a couple of weeks, and I wanted to shoot photos. California was kind of gray. I'd seen pictures in Surfer Magazine with blue skies, blue water. I wanted to get that feel. And I had a friend that lived right in Paia that said, hey, come and stay here for a while.
So how did you even get into photography at the beginning? Or how did that even start? Just going back to the beginning.
Well, I've been taking pictures probably since I was about 10. Maybe I had started out, my first camera I used was a Kodak Brownie. Then I went to Kodak Instamatic. Some of you maybe know what a Kodak Instamatic was. And ended up with my first camera my dad bought for me was a Mamiya Secor 500 DTL. So the shutter speed went up to 500th of a second. So
just always been into it.
Yeah.
And then you got into surfing, and then you started shooting surfing.
I started shooting surfing.
Evolved from there.
I was on Maui. Art Brewer from Surfer Magazine. I started sending him some photos, and I was sending him color negatives. And he said, no, you can't do that. You got to shoot wide film. So he told me what to buy, told me camera to buy, got me to get a water housing, 650 millimeter
So
Century.
when was this? When you were in Maui, you were shooting surfing, and you just said, I want to send some images into art.
Yep.
And where was he at?
He was in at Surfer Magazine. He was the photo editor in Dana Point, California. And so when he first looked at my negative film, he said, no, these prints aren't going to cut it. I need slides. So he coached me. I went over and talked to him. He coached me through on just what to get. That's cool. So actually, I wanted to read a little something. This is
yes, please.
I don't know if you know Doug Britt. I guess they start all sermons with a reading, right? So
I love that.
Doug Britt and Sharon Britt, they're on Kauai. Doug's a fantastic artist. If you don't know his work, you should look it up. But in her introduction to her book, she wrote, in the 70s, surfers and dreamers were finding themselves in the Hawaiian Islands. We all lived happily in little cane houses. These human-scale, single-walled homes were mostly being eaten by termites. We swept up the insect pilings filled in the cracks and painted our rooms. These dilapidated walls became our new island homes. So that's pretty much my story right there.
Yep. That's beautiful. I love that. So what are we seeing here? Let's just go through some photos.
Yeah,
too.
this is Paia, Maui, 73, 74. And the whole town would close up. This was now it's all boutique-ish. So all the mom and pop stores, they had the Horiyuchi's, the Nagatas, Bersaman's Fish Market. They all closed up. Everybody knew each other. And Larry's Liquor was across the street here, and they had a bar there. So if you didn't get beat up at Larry's, you could probably go across the street to Augie's Pool Hall, and you could get beat up there quite easily. And so it was a really good place to be back then.
That's cool. You documented that time and place in there.
I wish I had documented a lot more.
Like what?
Well, I
The
just
people
wish
or
I'd
something?
shot everything, and probably wish I'd bought some real estate back then too. But film was. I was kind of broke. Film wasn't cheap. It was expensive for me. It was $5 a roll and $5 a mailer. So for Kodachrome 64. So this kind of sums up my Maui life. We all had Volkswagens, easy to work on, but they were always breaking, and so we would pile as many people in the car as we could, and head out wherever the surf was good on any given day.
So this is fun. I asked Dana kind of what we wanted to do, and I was telling him I kind of wanted to see like a timeline of his career. So I told him to go back to the beginning. So tonight we're going to go through this whole kind of just see the evolution of Dana's work, and like from the surfing stuff and all the way till today. So that's kind of the theme of the slideshow we'll be seeing. So I think we can just kind of start going through some pictures and see what comes from that, and that might spark some questions for me. So
Yeah, and please, if somebody's got questions out there, I think it's good we just take care of them as we go.
yeah, 2 photographers up here trying to run a podcast, so we need your guys' help. But let's just see some of this stuff. This is
This
cool.
plantation house. And definitely in the little house I had, one day I put on my long sleeve shirt, and I had it on for about 10, 20 minutes, and I felt this pain in my arm, and I pulled the shirt back, and there was a good-sized centipede just going at my arm right there. So I kind of learned from then that I probably shouldn't leave my shirt on the ground overnight.
Welcome to Hawaii.
Yeah, there you go.
So when did like photography become? So this was just a hobby when you're surfing in Maui and you're just shooting your friends, and
I was shooting my
how
friends.
did that all evolve?
Yeah, shooting my friends, and then I ended up going to Maui Community College because I knew that there was a photo program there, and I could work in the darkroom. So I learned a lot in there. I got a job with the photographer Bob Jameson, and he really helped me get going. At that time, I didn't even have a car, so I lived in Paia, if you're pretty Maui familiar, lived in Paia, went to school at Maui Community College, would hitchhike there because I didn't have a car. Then I'd hitchhike home back to Maui, to Paia. Then I'd get my work uniform and I'd hitchhike over to Ka'anapali. So I was working in Ka'anapali and or Lahaina in restaurants, Front Street in Lahaina. This is my car. My good friend Ray Pino that's since passed away. But he'll keep up Beach Park.
What was that photographer? What was he doing? He was a professional that
He
lived
was a
in.
graphic designer, photographer, and he did a lot of work. He did a lot for Maui Land and Pine, Kapalua. And I've got a photo coming up, but I might as well tell it now. He started me shooting aerials,
Oh, wow.
and he would get sick. He would throw up every time he would go up in the air, so he's got me to start shooting them. This is a neighborhood guy. This is Manuel Jacinto. He lived just right around the corner from us. He didn't talk much. He was super intimidating, really quiet. Word had it that his brother could rip a quarter in half. And so I remember this scene. I look at him, and I had my camera. I kind of hold up my camera as in, is it okay? And he gave me a nod, and then I shot.
Can you guys all hear us back there? Is it all good? I want to make sure you guys are all the experience is cool. All right, Tim, we can just go through a couple here.
And
let's just see what.
Manny used to fly his kite on the point in Kuau. And some guys would fly their kites to fish, but Manny just did it just to do it. And he also was the cemetery caretaker, hence also a little bit intimidating. We would always go into the cemetery to collect flowers to make lei, and but I'd always go in. I would ask permission of the residents, and nobody ever objected, so we figured it was okay.
Like, who was inspiring you at this time in the photography world? Were you seeing a lot in magazines, or you have friends doing it, or you're just?
I had friends. I had, I was looking at surf magazines, so that was kind of my start. When I was first starting out, I thought photography, everybody gets into photography. I guess you become like Ansel Adams, right? That's what you shoot. But, slowly but surely, I, learned there was a whole nother commercial side of it. This was after a hike we did through Haleakala Crater. And we started at the summit at 10 at night. We got this idea at like 9 at night. Well, let's go hike through the crater. So we started at the summit 10 at night. 5 of us hiked through and got to Kalpoa Store at 7 in the morning. That's 17 miles. Honolulu Bay. So I shot a lot at Honolulu Bay. Pretty much, until maybe Eric Ader came along, I think I was the only guy really regularly shooting it. And
do you want to do a project on any of that stuff at some point, like with your early work, like a book of Maui, or just, I don't know, have any projects like that in mind? Because you were one of the early people to document this world, or?
Well, it's so different now, but although this guy on the far right, I can recognize, it's hard for anybody to recognize him, but that's a good friend of mine named Albert Jinks, who was one of the best surfers there. And he lost his house in the Lahaina fire, and I was just over there. I shot some portraits of him, and I'm kind of moving on a project along that line.
And Oli, right?
And Oli, we'll get to some pictures of Bob Olson later. This is my first cover shot. Michael Ho. There weren't that many really good surfers on Maui. And so I contacted Michael and asked him if I sent him a plane ticket, if he would come over and surf Honolulu. Mm-hmm. So he did. I picked him up at the airport. He came, surfed. I got a cover of it. And took him back that very same day.
Do you still have this hard copy at home somewhere?
The film?
No, the magazine.
I do. I have.
I have and what year was this? Like
this
77
is 70.
Or something?
I think this is 77. Yeah.
And your first ever cover?
First cover. Yeah.
Do you know how many covers you've had?
No, I don't know. I've got. I know I'm over 60 at Hanaho.
Oh, that's cool.
But total one, I don't know.
And you had your work published before this in smaller photos within Surfer?
Yes, I had a few other small photos.
Your first cover.
Art Brewer, I remember. I don't even remember because we didn't have cell phones back then. But he contacted to tell me that I had the cover, and I was, wait, are you sure that's me?
Wait, what do you do?
He contacted to tell me I had the cover shot.
That's amazing.
And I was, it was the first all color issue, so that was a big deal.
Oh wow, that's epic. That's crazy.
Before that, there's a lot of black and white inside.
That's a big deal. That's cool. Let's see some more, Tim.
And Jerry Lopez. So Jerry, most of you probably know Jerry Lopez's, but so I became friends with him over on Maui, and he asked me one day if I could shoot a ad shot for Lightning Bolt. I'd never shot an ad before, and he kind of coached me with what he was looking for, and there we go. So this is my first real photo assignment I ever had.
Oh, that's crazy. That's cool. So did you guys know each other well before that, or he just kind of saw you around and reached out?
I'd known him for about a year or something like that. Yeah, so surfing Hokipa, surfing all around.
Was he famous at this point? I don't know much about.
He was very famous even at that point. He was famous. He's always been famous.
That's
but
cool. Yeah.
A movie, 5 Summer Stories, was what really brought him the fame. It was Jerry again.
Do you still photograph Jerry or catch up with him when he's around?
Pretty regularly. I would go on surf trips for maybe 4 or 5 years. We're going on surf trips down to Mexico, so I'm in touch with him regularly. Yeah. He's still he's incredible. At 74, I think he's more limber than it's just crazy his yoga skills.
Oh, I like this design. This is cool.
Another Lightning Bolt ad. This is kind of a screw up a little bit. and we went to go shoot this up at Jerry's house, and I'd forgot my fill board. I had no fill. So we had one extra board. So this other friend, Roy Mesker, held the white board as a fill, but I still could have used a lot more.
When did you feel you were a professional photographer?
I think probably when I started shooting this kind of stuff.
Yeah, like
And fortunately, I had met my then girlfriend, now wife, Ginger, and it was kind of like when you want to meet a girl and you've got a puppy. That's always a good intro. So I started shooting this stuff, and I knew she knew how to. She was a bookkeeper. I said, "Hey, can you do this bill for me for this thing I just shot?" So
there you
she
go.
still to this day does
Icebreaker.
all our billing for the,
Yep.
and she manages my business. So she's the best.
And she's your studio manager.
Studio
right?
manager,
Yep. Still rocking it. Love that.
And people ask me
Miss
like,
Ginger.
she'll say, you know, you need to turn this light off. Do you know what our electric bill is? And I say, actually, I don't. She does all that. I just take pictures. Very fortunate.
Amazing. I love these old slides. I love when photographers like photograph the slide, and I don't know, just love seeing because us digital people, we don't even know it. Half some of these old, you know, where the lab is with your little stamp on it, and I love all that stuff.
Yeah,
The
instead
journal
of
style.
scans, what I do, I had a scanner for a while, and then it became incompatible with my camera. I just started putting them on my light box
Yep.
with my 100mm macro, and it works pretty darn
Exactly,
good.
it gets the job done. You
So
know,
Jerry at one point asked me if I wanted to go to Bali, and of course I said yes, but I didn't have any money. So we got Lightning Bolt to pay half, Surfer Magazine paid half, and this is shot at Uluwatu on Maui, which the background there is way different now. I think it's filled with hotels and such. But this was shot with a Nikonos, and if you look closely right here, that's my finger. So probably not good. I've retouched on other uses, but for this I just left it out.
give some layers to it. I like that.
Yeah, well, the Nikonos has, and I think I saw John Hook here. I think we use the Nikonos a lot.
Oh yeah.
It's got a short lens, and you know, easy if you're not, if you're swimming and trying to shoot, easy to get the finger in the way if you're not being careful.
John's probably put his finger in front of the lens a time or two, I imagine.
And another characteristic for me, for that camera, that lens, is you have to be close. And because Uluwatu is a big playing field, you kind of got to get lucky a little bit, you know, line yourself up with the wave just properly, and then hope the action comes.
I like that. We learned that in like photojournalism school. It's all about being close. You can tell that in the images, you know, when people just stand back and shoot with their little street sweeper or something, you're not a part of it. So being close, really, you can really see that in images. So I'm always looking for that as a photo editor when people get right up close. So I like how that camera makes you have to be close, and that's cool. So did they run that story in Surfer or whatever?
Yeah, that was
No,
a
that's
Surfer.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
and that the previous shot that's kind of been used quite a bit. 'Cause Jerry and I, we have a good relationship. So if somebody wants to use that shot, he says, "Hey, you know," hooks me up with them. But you know, more than the surf action was fine. But I really enjoyed mostly was shooting the people, the kids. So at that time at Uluwatu, you had to hike in. You got a BMO, which is like a small van taxi thing, and the road stopped like 2 miles short of where the surf break was. So we had to hike or run into the spot. And so we would always be met by the kids of the village, of Uluwatu village, and they would carry our stuff and mind everything for $1 a day. And they, you know, it was just great kids. I really left an impression.
This is beautiful. I love this shot. It's kind of like, it seems like your something you would shoot today, even just your style.
Yeah, and if you notice, detail, the surf leash is a bungee cord. It's got a rope through it, but it's, you know, not a.
Those have evolved a little bit.
It's a
maybe?
homemade surf leash. Yeah.
That's cool.
Another one, same. I think that's the same kid, right? I think so. So I'm hoping to go back and just shoot these board carriers as they are now. I've contacted a few of them,
So
And,
they're still doing it.
they're not doing it. They've all gone on to other things,
Well,
and the village is totally different now. Now you drive right up to the surf break
Yeah.
and to the hotels that you're staying at and all that. But some of the kids are still around. And at that time for our standards, they didn't have a lot of money, but what they did have was happiness, which is so more important. I learned a lot of lessons on that one.
Yeah, that's cool.
So there was a guy in Lahaina that had a import shop, and when he found out I was going to Bali, his name is Mike Ryan, and he said, "Hey, if I give you $500, will you buy a bunch of stuff for me from Bali?" And I said, "Sure, I'll be glad to do that." So he wasn't paying me; I just agreed to do it. Wasn't too smart, I guess, at the time. So $500 in 1978 bought a lot of stuff. I mean, shirts were like $2. So I ended up buying boxes and boxes. I had like a dozen big cardboard boxes full of stuff. And being a little bit young and naive, I didn't know anything about excess baggage. Got to the airport, and they said, "Okay, well, that's going to be," I forget what it was, $350 or something. And I said, "Well, I don't have $350. I'm trying to calculate, okay, what am I going to leave behind?" I had $50 left, so I asked the guy at the gate, "Can I see your supervisor?" I don't even know what got into me on this one, but so I went to the back room. I pulled out my $50 and I said, "Is there anything we can do? Because this is all I've got." And he took the $50, wrote a receipt, and sent my stuff on.
That still works today, kind of.
Yep, or I'd be arrested, one of the two.
That's all right. So yeah, let's go through some of these here. I think we got a lot to.
Yeah, we've got a lot, so if you want
Yeah,
to
so we can
keep
just keep
moving, you
going.
keep it going, man.
And if you guys got any questions, holler. I know that first question's always tough. Oh, here's the aerial.
Yeah, so this is area Lahaina,
Look at that green. That's
about
crazy.
77. Like I said, Bob would get sick. He found out by throwing up all over his Hasselblad. And so he got me to shoot
It's a
aerials.
good gig, but man, you don't want to be.
So I was going up for Kapalua maybe once a week, shooting aerial progress photos, construction progress. And one time, and sometimes in a helicopter, sometimes in a plane called a citabria. Citabria is aerobatic, spelled backwards. So this pilot, Bruce McLean, would take me up, and it had the wing on top, so you still had a good view. And one time we're flying back to Kahului Airport, and he said, "Okay, hold on." And I think he means it's going to be windy or the airport's up ahead. And all of a sudden he does this just roll thing, double roll. My cameras are all on the floor of the plane, but these all stayed in.
Screw that. No wonder why that guy was puking if you're doing stuff like that.
So yeah, Lahaina's a little bit different now.
That's crazy. Seen it like that.
So
So were you a full-fledged photographer at that time when you were working doing those aerials,
No.
or were you still just?
I was
in your
still working
20s
at night
doing
in
that.
restaurants
Yeah.
and working by day for Bob Jameson.
Yep.
And then he kept encouraging me I should go to Art Center.
Okay.
And so Art Center in Pasadena, California.
Phew.
And
We got any art center kids
yeah.
here?
You're an Art
I
Center
know
person?
a couple of them.
Oh, okay, terrific. Anyway, so fortunately, I got accepted, and my wife and I had gotten married, and my girlfriend and I had gotten married, and so she put me through school, and she worked while I went to school. So 8 trimesters.
So you both moved to Pasadena.
We
or
both
wherever?
moved to Pasadena, Eagle Rock, actually.
Yeah, Eagle Rock. Yep.
And as soon as I came back, I started showing my work around. This was our first studio. It was at Merchant in Alakea. So I was just walking around, looking for a place to rent. Looked through the little mail delivery slot there. Saw this place was empty, and was able to rent it for a couple $100 a month, I think. So this was my first little studio. And this would be the first ad I was able to shoot. So Wilfred Toki, who was art director at Star Siegel McCombs, back then there was a lot of ad agencies, but Wilfred Toki, and He had this Bank of Hawaii concept. And back then, of course, there was a fellow, Oliver Kinney, and Oliver would sketch concepts for the art director so they could show the client. And then it went from sketching the concept to using stock, and now, of course, I think it's, generate something with AI to get your idea across. But so this is the original Polaroid. I just came across it from the other day of the ad shoot we did. So this would be my first ad here in Honolulu. And this would be the corresponding ad too.
Oh, so where was the studio at?
Okay, so then
That's the
after that we
shop.
moved to a studio in Chinatown, right about where that rainbow ends, that blue building. Yep. So the last 3 windows were actually 4 windows were our studio, and it was quite a bit bigger, and it was a good time there. It was the building was all fixed up. It was newly renovated. Now I go down there and it's a little disappointing because it's kind of trashed.
Do you miss having a studio like that, or no need anymore?
Well, no need anymore.
Yeah, it's not worth the
it was
squeeze.
I was really busy then.
Yep.
I was shooting, all kinds of stuff. A lot of studio, a lot of product, a lot of catalogs for Liberty House. I don't know if anybody remember Liberty House, which became Macy's, but Liberty House went out of business, and so I stopped doing product stuff, and then there was no reason to have a studio anymore.
Was that the bulk of your work then, you think? Like the catalog
It was
stuff?
a good part of it. I was shooting a lot of studio stuff by day, and then other jobs would come along. I said I could shoot that at night.
Were you still like Surfer Magazine or editorial stuff?
Not as
in
much.
the
I
90s?
was kind of drifted away from that. Probably more 90% advertising, and a little bit of editorial. For this one, this was shot. I think it was with art director Wendy Chun, and who's still doing it. But we had this idea, and this was shot in the studio in Chinatown. And I hired a guy that had a flame bar that he could put the flame in front of. This is not like back now. You would just composite it, but he turned the flame. He turned the gas on and turned the flame, and the flame went all the way to like the ceiling. And oh my God, could be a disaster. But we pulled it off. This was shot for a book called The Discovery Book. And it's a little faked in that his tattoos are marker. They're magic marker.
Why'd you guys do that?
Because nobody at that time had full body tattoos like that.
Oh, and the designer wanted or
the
needed
designer
something like that
yeah.
for that book?
Yeah, that was one concept. And the designer of this book was Kuni Hayashi, who was the previous art director for Hanaho, and he still does fabulous work. Yeah. So I see a lot of other photographers that know all about snip tests. So we would always, shoot a roll of film, and have the labs just snip the first frame or two, so we could judge our exposure. And those were good times at the lab because we would all run into each other. I was seeing Doug Peebles and Rick, and everybody would see each other. We would talk story, and there would be 6 or 8 photographers maybe in the lab at a time. And then of course when digital came around, that kind of went away. So we don't see each other. So it's nice to see the familiar faces here.
See, that's why we put on these damn events like that. Bringing people together with digital taking away the labs, all that.
Good job.
All right, Tim, you can keep going through some of these a little quicker.
Okay, so Governor Waihee, I've shot quite a few governors. After this governor, I photographed, I should say, better yet, Governor Cayetano and Mazie Hirono, Lieutenant Governor. And we were leaving the shoot, and I said to my assistant, Steve, I said, so Steve, you got the film, right? And he said, no, you have it. And I said, I don't have it. So grabbed the cooler. We'd always carry the film in the cooler. Looking through the cooler, looking through the car. Just so sense of dread comes over me. And so we went back to the governor's house there and started looking through the dumpster. And sure enough, I'd thrown it away.
Oh,
so
my God.
that was a close one.
That's why you need assistants on fire. Do you still work with assistants much?
Yeah, I do. Steve Nohara is the best. I know
Nice.
Rick also uses them. But
That's
it
awesome.
used to be there was a lot of assistants in town. I mean, 3, 4, 5 different people perhaps. But it's kind of a dying profession. I shouldn't say dying, but it's not that many of them around anymore.
Hard to make a living here in Hawaii.
Yeah,
just
hard to make
doing
a living.
Assisting.
But Steve is so good that if anybody ever needs an assistant, he's the guy to call. I think Rick would agree with that. And, you know, a lot of hotel stuff we all used to do. There was 5 or 6, 8 photographers. And with all the different ad agencies were in town, there was just a lot of hotel work.
Like, what does that mean? Like for their in-room book or whatever? Or just whatever?
That previous one, that was for ad campaign.
Mm.
And ad campaign and brochure, and they gave me a lot of free reign. This is from the Discovery book, which was we talked about earlier. So National Geographic photographer Paul Chesley, he shot this. So he asked me if I would be in his shot. So he set this whole thing up, got the canoe there, got the girl.
Oh, he actually set up the canoe?
He set up the whole scene. I just had to jump in and take a picture. Pretend like I was taking a picture.
That's why it's so perfect. I
Well,
like that.
Yeah, that's why you can tell these guys in the canoe are kind of waiting. Okay, are we done yet?
I remember seeing this in that. And what was this in again? You're saying
This was in
what's it
the
called?
Discovery book. The one
Oh, it's
earlier
the
with the
Discovery
tattoo
book. Oh,
guy.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, same book.
There's that like Day in Hawaii or something. I always see those books
Day
around.
in, Day in the Life. Yeah.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
They were doing the hard.
So this is Fred. In the when we were in Chinatown, I would often try to recruit neighborhood people for portraits, and Fred was our maintenance guy. So he was always good for a film test or a portrait. Classic guy. He was in Pearl Harbor during World War II, and we had some great stories.
How'd you get into like portraiture stuff? Was that something that you just leaned on more in Pasadena, or you brought back with you? Just something you were leaning on? You just interest you in like the 90s or something, or was it even before that?
You might have been perceptive, like when in the Bali Kids. I just really
Doing
liked
that. That's
shooting
cool.
people. So
Yeah, I love hiring Dana to do like environmental portraits, where I just throw him off in some far-flung crazy place or wherever and do these kind of portraits, but in documentary style, like you saw in Bali and stuff like that. So I always love seeing that work from you.
thank you. That's Fred again. I actually liked it better when his cigar was kind of like this little stub that he had. And this was
is
the
a cool-
baker across the street. So I asked
This
him
is a
if
cool project, like documenting even just Chinatown at this time. That's what I always love when you just look back at it, because now it's been, 30 years or something, and it's just a cool documentation. You don't think about it at the time, but it's really important work years later.
Yeah, this guy worked 7 days a week. He told me the only time he ever took off work was to get a haircut. And this was the newspaper guy on the corner. This was the day after there was a big earthquake in California. And I asked him to come up. He didn't speak much, but he was a real nice guy. So I worked on Artists of Hawaii book, and the artists were selected by a whole collection of artists here in Hawaii, and they all voted on what artists they would like to see in the book. And this is Toshiko Takaezu, and she was on the cover of the book. This book also was designed by Kuni Hayashi. It was the book was produced by Diane Dodds and Joan Clark. This is Tadashi Sato, Lahaina. Also another well-known. He came from there was a group of local artists, Tadashi Sato, Satoru Abe. I'm sure I'll forget a few names that were just classic artists.
How are you getting some of these works, or how did people find you for these projects?
Well-
what were you? I don't know how do you get your name out there? Is it people just
You know, before we would just have the physical portfolio and schlep it around. And Diane Dodds contacted me. I'm not sure how. I don't really quite remember. But she gave me full reign. They selected the artists, and she said, go ahead, you know, shoot them however you want. So, and with Cooney's art direction, it was, you know, kind of inspiring to, you know, do really good work.
He was giving you kind of
No, he
a
had
little
no
art direction, or
well,
no?
no, he wouldn't give me any art direction.
Yeah,
He just, you know, wanted good portraits. But Cooney gave me actually the best compliment that I had ever received from an art director. And I was working with Cooney. He was a graphic designer. He's not really an ad guy, but we were doing a project for Melissa Valentio's, a development in Wailea. And we went to the meeting with the ad agency, and you get the client and, you know, account executives and all there, and we're sitting in their conference table. And we had this shoot planned on Maui for the development, and I think the client said, so when are you guys going over to Maui to shoot? And Cooney said, well, I'm not going. And they said, wait, you're not going? And he said, no, if I have to go, then I've hired the wrong photographer. So I was...
That's my MO too. I just stay at home at the desk sending emails, and I find the right photographer to accomplish the vision I have. So that's good.
This is Satoru Abe. He just passed away last week, I think. So just classic guy. I was thinking he was going to kind of dress up for the shot, and he said, no, I always wear a white T-shirt.
You got to keep true.
Yep. Real nice guy. And Timothy Ogilvy from the book. The RDP, that would be Fuji Provia film.
That was cool to see Franco back then. Too bad he didn't show up.
I just saw Franco the other day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was doing good.
You guys see the pictures all right back there? It's breathing, but you get the gist of it. I kind of want to just sit in the seats and watch myself. Here, it's cool. And this is still about the artist portraits?
Yeah,
project?
this is, help me, I'm forgetting his name. I got it. I'll find it, but you go ahead. So he would always do these kind of erotic Japanese type style paintings.
And were you just what kind of shooting 4x5 only at this point, or what's all this?
This is 120. This was with my 6x9, 6x7 Mamiya RZ67. I started shooting with 2.25. I had a Mamiya smaller fat format, and then I had the Hasselblad, but the Hasselblad the square format never quite felt right. I still, you know, you're always cropping it. So I liked the more rectangular format. So I went to the Mamiya. So this is the series. This is 4x5 Type 55 Polaroid, and Waikiki Beach Boy. And I tried to interest a certain magazine on running this story, but it never quite stuck. So this just became a personal project.
Are you still working on it?
I haven't been, but I can.
Just can't, yeah. Michael, let's get honest.
But and at the time when I shot this, Hanaho would have been a good venue for it. I also tried Surfer's Journal, and they never bit. But Hanaho wasn't doing any black and white at that time. It was, only time they would publish anything black and white was if it was a historical photo. And so it's kind of nice to see now that Hanaho publishes black and white.
We've done a couple black and white covers over the last year, believe it or not. So yeah, some of Arto's work. I know he's here tonight. Some black and white stuff from him.
He did that great book.
Yep.
So
More Beach Boy stuff.
This
And
Beach
this
Boy,
is your crazy Type 55 or whatever?
Type 55 Polaroid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love this stuff.
This is a beach girl, obviously. So, I would hang out there a lot, so everybody became, pretty willing. Now, this is not a beach boy. He's an adaptive surfer. And I saw him checking the surf one time, so I set him up for this. This was during the Axis surf
So
event.
that was a personal project, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you come up with stuff like that? Are you always just thinking about personal work, or is it
I'm
something that
kind of
you're
always thinking about personal work. There was a period of time when I was just doing commercial work.
Yeah.
And I was, maybe a little sometimes soul-sucking. But sorry for the... But
how important?
I'm always trying to do personal work. It's it's what kind of keeps me going. I try to shoot every day.
Yeah.
I'm always shooting something.
I feel that's so important to always be having your own personal projects like that. I know for me, like when I'm looking at photographers' websites, I'm always looking at just their personal work, because that kind of shows me what they like doing, when they're home or when they're off the clock, or even after a commercial shoot, or they shoot at the newspaper all day, but then they go out and shoot their own personal projects. And I always love that, like photographers that just do it for the love of it too, or whatever.
Yeah, this is back in the stock photo days. I think most all photographers, we were all shooting stock photos.
So
And-
this was kind of set up, like.
Well, what happened was
obviously, but I mean.
Yeah, it was set up, but it was. I was shooting at that time for FPG, which got bought out by Getty Images. But I was driving along in Kailua, and I saw this gal and her dog, and they were driving along. It was kind of just the same sort of scene. They were at a stoplight, so I honking my horn. I got to shoot that. I pulled her over, and then we agreed to go out to shoot out by Hanama Bay.
That's crazy. This is cool. This is a crazy, like, full circle moment, because Elise will contest to this. Like, we saw this image in PDN, like, 2020, I don't even know, 2007 or something like that. And PDN highlighted a photographer from each state. And this was the photo they used from Hawaii. And Elise was like, I want to move to Hawaii and be a photographer.
And now you're right by there, right?
Exactly. And this is my commute every day. And Elise is a photographer living in Hawaii. So it started with this picture in PDN, and now I get to work with Dana. So this is a pretty cool, like, full circle thing in this picture.
And stock photography used to be a big thing. Now, it's definitely a dying aspect of the business, especially now with AI coming up. You can generate whatever you want. Of course, I still think there's a market if you have something unique. So I just saw this green fence and, tried to concept what I'm going to shoot. But another stock photo, this one ended up selling pretty well. So before he published Hanaho, Chris Pierce was publishing the in-flight magazine for Continental Airlines Air Micronesia. And it was a really unique design in that one half of the magazine was English, the other half was Japanese. So I was shooting for mostly for the Japanese side, but both languages. But so I was able to travel to wherever Japanese tourists were flying on Continental Air Micronesia, I got to go to. So pretty much did New Caledonia, Australia, New York, Mexico, all over the place. Bali. So you can see one side English, one side Japanese. And then when it was actually really good timing, Terry Ahui for that magazine. When the Pacifica stopped publishing, I think it was the downturn in the Japanese economy, the Hanaho magazine was created. And fortunately, I got on board early on that.
So were you shooting right away when it first came out? 98, 99, 2000?
First cover I did 98.
Yep.
I think there
Perfect,
was.
that's right,
I think
beginning.
Wade Levin did the first had the first
yeah,
cover.
David Fleetham photographed Wayne Levin and Elise
Oh,
underwater for the first cover.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Wayne is actually in front of the camera. On
So
the first
mine
one.
might have been second or third cover.
Oh,
I
that's
can't
cool.
remember.
That's cool. And we were lucky to have Wayne do one of these talks a couple years back too. So let's go through some of these a little quicker. We got 10, 15 minutes maybe.
And I shot for Maui Jim for about 20 years. And first with an ad agency in Peoria, Illinois. And then doing a lot just on my own. And then sometimes client direct. And it's a little bit of a sad story in that the same owner owned the company for a long time, and then about 2 years ago, he sold to a European company. And now the only thing that's Maui about Maui Jim is the name. They don't shoot anything here anymore. Everything is generated in Europe. And they don't even... They got rid of all their ambassadors, all their Lahaina employees. Of course, they lost the business part there, but I was shooting quite a bit for them. Marcus Mariota. He was one of the nicest people I've ever shot. This was shot with through Melissa Valenti ad agency, and that was in conjunction with a commercial they were doing. So I think they gave me about 5 minutes to shoot this. We were in the closet at St. Louis School, and I did a lot of prep work to get it just right, but I think I got about, like I said, less than 5 minutes to go. But he was so easy to work with. This is some of the covers that I've done for Hanaho. Some are English, some are the Japanese, Korean, and Chinese editions.
I've got to work with over 100 assignments with Dana for sure. This is one of my first ones we did when I came on board in 2014 when he was off in New Zealand for the 85th anniversary issue.
So you've been how long now?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, 2014 when I came on board. But yeah, I sent Dana to New Zealand and Edinburgh and Makaha and where else? All over the world, doing some cool stuff. So we'll end it here with with some of Dana's Hanaho stuff. So we'll go through here and check out. This must be one of the first ones or something like that.
That's an early one, yeah. Pohaku Stone.
Pohaku, yeah.
Actually, that's 2001.
Yeah.
So
what's been your favorite Hanaho assignment ever? Or
the next one.
There you go. I like that.
I shot this with infrared up at the. There's these. He's got this Hawaiian sled. I forget what you call it, but he would go down these runs on that thing and just come down totally cut up. This is a Tahiti trip with Kelly Slater when they were doing the Ultimate Wave surf movie. And the surf in Chopu was not good at that on this day. But so we went out looking for surf, and we saw this wave break. And Kelly said, "There's no way I'm not riding that." And he just grabbed his board and jumped over. And on that same day, this is actually a shot of me by Kelly. On the same day, this is a good ad for Pelican. There was another photographer, and he had all of his equipment in a Pelican case, and he only had it halfway snapped, and he had it on the stern of the boat. And we got hit by a wave, and the Pelican went flying into the surf zone, tumbling around, and everything was completely dry inside, even though he only had one side snapped. And then Kelly said at the end of the trip, he said, "You've been shooting my picture all the time. Here, jump on that log. Let me get your picture."
I like that. Not many people have their bio photo by Kelly Slater.
This is
Surfing Dogs, we love this one.
Surfing
right,
Dog
Michael?
Story. This was my dog. We were stand-up paddle partners. And this was for a story I proposed on stunt people of Hawaii. And this is Danny Kim. He's a fifth degree Taekwondo black belt.
That's a great idea. I love stories like that, like diving into the world of, stunt people in Hawaii or whatever in the film industry. And great pitch.
I was trying to figure out how I wanted to shoot him, and we had this idea of shooting at a car salvage yard. So he put his trampoline back behind the cars, and then he jumped and came through. He was actually really high in the air. This is kind of the same one with Danny. We just kind of set this up as a shot. There's assistant Steve Nahara. Ocean Ramsey, if you guys know who Ocean Ramsey is, she swims with sharks, large sharks, very large sharks. She's invited me to go along, but I have politely declined. But we actually used her one time on a Maui gym shoot. And previous to her being hired, the previous year they had hired some models, talent that were from the mainland, and not that being from the mainland so bad, but they were definitely not water people. And we built this raft, and they didn't want to get in the water, and so I keep telling the client, I said, we got to get real people. You got to get people that really can, do what we want them to do. So they hired Ocean, and sorry, being stereotyping, but I saw the picture of her, and I met her, and I'm thinking, oh no, can this girl do what we need her to do? And so we just did a shootout in Hana, and we're staying out at the Hotel Hana Maui, and we're kind of sitting around the pool the first evening in, and we were with a North Shore lifeguard and another paddleboarder that had done the Molokai Channel numerous times, and they said, we should have a underwater swimming contest. So first guy, Mikey Cote, he goes, okay, well, so Ocean says, okay, well, I'll try, real quiet. You can hardly hear. And so Mikey does a lap, and then back again, and then back. And all right, that was really good. And then next guy, Eric, goes a lap, and then back, and then back, and then back. Oh, that's really good. And then Ocean goes, and she goes there and back and back and back, and back. Just put the boys to total shame. This is a story on taro farming for Hanaho.
Like, how do you approach a Hano assignment like this? Like, I don't know, just you need much art. I guess I give you a little art direction, or is it more just like with that portrait? Did you go in like I want to get a portrait of the tarot guy, or just the art director knows your style and your vision? Like here with Mike.
Yeah, pretty much anything I shoot, I like to have a discussion first, and then I just like to go and figure out what the conditions give us.
Yeah.
And I knew for this one for Michael, I wanted to shoot Mike. This is Mike Coots. I don't know if you guys. Mike Coots is a fantastic photographer. So when I think he was still a teenager on Kauai. He got his leg bit off by a shark, and but he went on to surf, and then now he's a really well-respected photographer and shark conservationist.
He wanted to be here tonight, but he's in New Zealand photographing great white sharks or something. So
yeah,
there you go. Per you.
He's really amazing. His work is fabulous. So if you guys don't know it, just look it up. Paddling in New York story.
Like, how can you show Hawaii in New York?
Well, so this guy was actually he's a canoe paddler. It's the real deal. And I talked to him, and he actually did take a cab every day down to canoe practice.
Oh, that's
He
cool.
would usually change at work though, so I got him to go down and flag a cab with all of his
press
hair on.
suit on.
Yeah.
This is a cool assignment. I like that one. And that assignment was they were just paddling.
I think it was
on
a
the
paddle.
Hudson.
They paddled around the
the
Statue of
island.
Liberty, I think.
Yeah.
And then on that same trip, I was just walking down Broadway, and I saw this gal and her snake, and I had to stop her and ask her if she'd mind if I took a picture.
I love assignments like this. Like anytime we can find like Hawaii outside of Hawaii is just a cool little touch. So I like assignments like this.
Jock Sutherland, legendary North Shore surfer.
Legend. Love that portrait.
This was actually for Honolulu. Surfer's over 60. At that time, he was over a little bit over 60. Now he's a bit over 70 and still surfing really good. And this is his mom, Audrey. She used to do these incredible
Another
paddles
legend.
along the Molokai coast. Another Hanaho story. She would go solo on Molokai coast. This is an 8x10 Polaroid. Abraham Macau, Kualoa Ranch. And Buzzy Sprout, Molokai, he was one that used to lead the Molokai trail ride down to Kalapapa. Charlie Lyon, this was for a story on painted surfboards. And Charlie lost he's in Lahaina, lost his house, his studio, and in the Lahaina fires. Mark Cunningham, lifeguard, former lifeguard, well-known body surfer. And Rick Gregg.
Are you looking at a lot of images at this time, or how are you getting your inspiration during this time in your career?
I do look at a lot of pictures, but I'm never trying to copy anybody's work. I kind of like, what I do, and try to think it through.
Let's go.
This is Bob Olson.
Olson, yeah, legend right here.
Here I think he's about 90, right? This is just a little bit before the Lahaina fire. So in the Lahaina fire, he lost his house. He was still shaping surfboards at 90. His house, his board making shop, and this classic truck he had in the fire. He didn't even get out with his slippers. But he's still going, but not making surfboards anymore.
We can go a little quicker. We got probably 5 minutes or so. So let's just. Oh, this one. Which one is this one? It's about license plates or something.
No, this is Pake Zane. I think Antique Alley is still there. He's an antique guy in Kaka'ako. He's been around forever. So I think they did a native intelligence on him. This would have been one of my favorite Hanaho assignments. This was actually a combination. This was for the final harvest.
You pitched it to us.
Yeah, so it was the final harvest of HC&S sugar. And I first started shooting for A&B, which owns HC&S. They asked me to go and shoot at the mill and the plantation for like a day, just to kind of document it before they closed up the mill. And they saw some shots, and it became almost a months-long project anyway. And then I pitched the idea to Hanaho. So some of these would be combinations.
That was like one of my favorite covers I've ever been a part of. Like top 5, top 3 for sure. And this is the stuff that I really love as a visual storyteller of Dana documenting the end of sugar. And that's such how long that industry ran, and having Dana's vision there on Maui, like covering this event is a timeless thing. And he did it so well with his style of these portraits, but also documentary stuff. And these will be seen for years to come of documenting this time. And that's what I love about photography is capturing these stories like this, and all the people involved. And it's a cool collaboration you did, your style and this such a big story in Hawaii.
Well, collaboration's a good word, because all these people were really, really proud of the work they did there. And they were eager to be photographed. So when I first started the assignment, I had to be with one of the HC&S supervisors the whole time, and they would take me around. But after a while, they just let me go wherever I wanted to go.
And how long did you work on that?
It was several months.
Oh, wow. That's what I love. I love like the long-term projects or whatever.
And they did a book for all their employees.
Oh, that's cool.
So all their employees, when they closed up, they had a big party and they all got a book.
What's the most challenging thing of being a photographer, or answering what's the craziest challenging Hanaho assignment I've thrown you at?
Well, I don't know about it as far as you go, but it's the collaboration. Like when I was talking earlier, these guys and Marcus and people that are work with you and are so easy. I one time had an assignment to photograph Jack Nicklaus, the golfer. So a lot of you guys, if you know who Jack Nicklaus is, and it was on Kauai. I went over with the ad agency. There was an art director and there was the account executive, and we went over to photograph Jack Nicklaus while he was designing this golf course. And we kept saying, they'd say, he's out on hole number 18, so we'd go there and he'd drive away. Anyway, we kept following him around the golf course, and he kept avoiding us. And I don't know how this is going to work. And so finally we caught up with him, and he came up to me and he said, okay, take your picture. And I took one frame, and he walked away. That was it. And the frame didn't work out. It was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst.
So this was Scotland for Hanaho. And Cooney, the art director, this is one where he'd give me some direction in it. He said he wanted me to get a double-page spread.
Yep.
So
make sure no one was in the gutter or whatever.
Well, exactly. So there's kind of between the gal in the purple and the other guy, I had to leave a space. So we basically kind of took over the street here and just had them walk down the street. This was the Kamehameha Schools Big Island. They did a performance at the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh. And this was Dave Chudd. This was a story on people from Hawaii that have moved to Bend, Oregon.
This was a fun one. These guys are from Race to Alaska, where they had to go from Washington up to Alaska. It was like 450 miles with no motor, no support, no nothing, and sent Dana and the rider to tag along on that journey with them up to Alaska.
Yeah, it'd be 750 miles.
Thank you.
And they would go, it's the only rules on the boat race were that you could not have a motor, and you could have no assistance, no escorts. You couldn't line up food to be delivered to you or anything. So they're pretty much on their own for 750 miles. So there would be the big boats that could easily do it in 4 or 5 days, and they had crews around the clock. And then the smaller boats and others would have to stop and sleep. And that means sleeping on the side of the bank with bears and whatever. This is Palmyra Atoll, another favorite Hanaho story. Unfortunately, this one is, Palmyra is a atoll about, I think it's 1,750 miles to the south. It's managed by the Nature Conservancy and the National U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And so a lot of scientists are there studying climate change, bird populations, et cetera. And I think they just got a big cut. I think a lot of their people just got fired, unfortunately.
That's sad.
This was shot for Maui Health. And a face tattoo story that ran recently. And this is a neighbor. Like I say, I like to shoot a lot.
This is your personal project?
This is,
like
it's just kind of a project I do.
Your neighborhood or something.
This is my 93-year-old neighbor, and she swims most every day. So I was always trying to get her. Another neighbor. And this guy would set up these elaborate Christmas decorations. My mailman. And that would be the end.
Well, thank you, Dana. Let's give it a big hand for Dana walking us through all that. Appreciate you, my man.